I believe we're live.
Are we live? Hey, everybody, it's Tara Marie. How are you? I'm coming to you from the Hangar Studios. We're doing a pre-record. This is the premiere episode of Season 2 of Tara Marie Live. We're happy to have you with us. We're here at the Hangar Studios in Midtown Manhattan. We've got the whole team here. Chad's here. Chad, say hello.
Hello.
Okay, and Chad, a lot of you have been emailing me about Chad. Chad,
why? I don't know.
Because they want more of Chad, so we've told Chad to be chatting with us. My guest is Dr. Patricia P. Selassie, and again, we're back to Season 2. Look, we have real mugs.
I love those
We have
mugs.
mugs because you know what they say, it's not a real talk show unless you have mugs. So this season we have mugs. We're going to go live, and you're going to watch the progress of the pre-record in action. We always pre-record the podcast the week before you get it with the podcast apps. We think this is a fun way of watching the show. Chad, are we ready? You just give us, you want to do a test?
Yeah, let's do a mic test. Your mic sounds great.
Okay, testing 1, 2, 3, testing 1, 2, 3.
Toast. All right, and our guest?
Okay.
Toasting 1, 2, 3. Toast.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
Cheers.
All right.
That's okay.
Ladies, have a wonderful show. So let's start this off. Kick off Season 2 the right way.
Exactly. Kick off Season 2. Okay.
You can begin whenever you want.
Okay. 3, 2, 1. Hey, well, hello and welcome to Tara Marie Live. Thank you so much for being with me today. I am your host, Tara Marie Segundo. I'm a fitness expert, a personal trainer, and a motivational strategist. And of course, I'm coming to you from the Hangar Studios right here in beautiful New York City. I want to thank my returning listeners. And if you're a new listener, welcome to my podcast. Tara Marie Live is about mental, emotional, physical, social, and spiritual health, and how these parts of us are really inextricably linked and must all be balanced to achieve optimal health, which is really what we all want, optimal health and happiness. Now, today we're kicking off Season 2 with a Facebook Live simulcast. So we want to say hello to everybody watching on Facebook Live. Everybody's here. I'm here. This is Dr. Patricia P. Selassie. I'll be introducing her properly in just a moment. We've got Chad with us.
Hello.
Hi, Chad.
Chad's with us. A lot of you who have emailed me asking for more of Chad. Chad is on board with that, right, Chaddy?
Yes.
Chad's on board. Now, today's topic is one that I think you're going to really enjoy. I thought this was good for Season 2. The topic is, I want to say this. It's controversial, but after doing my own research, I don't get why it's controversial. Because at first when I heard it, when I was posed the idea, I thought that's a great idea. It sounded controversial, but then when I started doing my research, I don't quite get the controversy. So I think that's part of the interest of this topic. What would you say, before I even tell you what we're talking about, what would you say if I had a safe, effective, natural treatment for all kinds of diseases? Things like anorexia, chronic pain. Most of us have chronic pain at some point in our lives. Systemic inflammation. Things like multiple sclerosis that are really, life-altering. Neurodegenerative disorders. Epilepsy and all the seizures that go with epilepsy. Things like glaucoma, osteoporosis, which is thinning bones, schizophrenia and other mental health disorders, cardiovascular disorders, cancer, obesity, metabolic diseases, stress and anxiety, even skin disorders, and really more. Would you be interested in knowing what I was talking about? Chad?
Sign me up for that right now.
Exactly. So that's what I say. Okay, but here's the thing. What if I told you that there was all this controversy surrounding regular folks getting access to this kind of a natural treatment? Chad, would that not irritate you?
Of course. There's help out there and people can't get it.
Correct.
Yes, that's upsetting.
Correct. Okay, so therein lies the controversy. But again, once you start to dig deep, you understand that there really shouldn't be controversy. That's what we're talking about today. Many people are confused about the topic of cannabis oil. Cannabis oil. It's also called Cbd oil. They're confused about what it really is. So I think what happens is they hear the word cannabis and they flip out. That would make sense to you, right, Chad?
Yeah.
Right. So they hear the word cannabis, they flip out. And so what I wanted to do was today for the Season 2 launch, I brought back one of my listener favorites. I get a lot of email about Dr. Selassie so we can understand what cannabis oil is, all of the benefits, and then understand the controversy, because if we can understand the controversy, perhaps we can move past it. So let me welcome my guest. This is Dr. Patricia P. Selassie. Dr. Selassie is a naturopathic physician and a certified nutrition specialist. Using naturopathic medicine combined with a very intuitive coaching style, her practice focuses on chronic illnesses like metabolic diseases, thyroid disorders, autoimmune diseases, and skin health. Listeners actually know her as a doctor you can talk to because she herself has hosted over 400 live call-in radio shows. She's also been on the other side playing host. Now, Dr. Selassie, I want to welcome you.
Thank you, Tara.
Well, I'm thrilled to have you here. So part of what I want to do with this show is bust the controversies. And yesterday I put out a post on Facebook and I said, I'm going to have Dr. Selassie on. This is what we're going to be talking about. Do you have any questions? And some people replied, and I'm glad. I'd like to bring their questions to you. But the one thing I don't want to do is to make people hear this and think, oh, I'm just going to go grab me some cannabis oil and use it on myself, because there are possible side effects,
right,
and there are interactions. And I want to talk about some of those, just because if people stop listening right this minute, I want people to understand it is known it can cause a decrease in concentration, memory, the ability to learn and think. And it's not safe to mix cannabis oil with other medications, certain medications like antidepressants, anxiety medications, pain relievers, seizure medications, muscle relaxers, because it can cause drowsiness and fatigue. So if you turn off this program right now, which I hope you don't, please understand that while, again, I don't understand the controversy and it is safe, I want you to consider its use under the care of a doctor like Dr. Selassie, who uses it in her practice. I don't want people to go buy cannabis oil the way I go buy tea tree oil.
Right.
I just go
what you're saying is absolutely true. There are interactions with drugs.
Right. So my concern is I wanted to get that out at the top in case somebody doesn't listen to this all the way through, but I hope you do.
And you do have to be careful with dosing.
Right. That's why I want you to consider this under the care of a medical professional. You obviously also don't want to use this if you're pregnant or are trying to become pregnant, or if you could become pregnant, because there's some evidence that women who use cannabis at the time of conception or while pregnant may increase the risk of their child being born with birth defects or a very low birth weight. And don't use it if you're breastfeeding. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's something that you would talk about.
Consult with me or a medical professional.
Exactly. Because CBD oil sourced from hemp is legal across the United States, all states of the United States, when sold as a dietary supplement. That's where I get a little nervous, is that people are going to start
Yeah, I was in Florida last week for the holiday, and I saw it at a flea market just selling these oils, sort of oils.
This is where I get nervous. Okay,
Yeah.
Because I want to be very clear with this show. It's legal in all 50 United States, and of course, this is a podcast, so this is people get it worldwide. But like Chad said, he sees it in a flea market. Like I could go pick up some tea tree oil or for some lavender oil to help sleep. Right. So just please listen to this show all the way through. If you do want to use it, which is great. I mean, after learning about it, I'm thinking about using it too. I would only do it under the care of a physician who knows how to use it. Okay, so let's make that note very clear. All right, so Dr. Selassie, again, I think the controversy, and according to the reading I've done, and I think, Chad, you would echo this, the controversy comes from people hearing cannabis and flipping out a little bit. I think especially people, I'm 52, I only know, weed, pot, marijuana, Mary Jane. I know that, in high school, I never smoked pot. I never did that. But when I hear cannabis, that's where my head goes. What is the difference between marijuana and hemp, H-E-M-P, hemp being the source of cannabis oil?
Okay, so let me break it down for you. There's a plant called cannabis, right? And there's two different, I guess you could say, plants. So there's usually cannabis indica, which is where you get marijuana from. Marijuana is very high in THC, and THC is the constituent that has psychoactive properties that will make you get high. Industrial hemp comes from a plant, a cannabis plant, usually the sativa, the sativa strain, and no matter if I don't, you could smoke it till you're, you could eat it till you're blue in the face and it would never make you high because it doesn't have high concentrations of the THC. What it has is higher concentrations of the CBD. And of course, these strains have been bred to do that.
What is
right?
CBD?
CBD is cannabidiol. So
Got it.
Cannabidiol and THC is tetrahydro, tetrahydro.
It's in here somewhere. It's a big word. It's tetrahydrocannabidiol.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was right. Tetrahydrocannabidiol.
Yeah.
THC. Easier to just say that.
Exactly. Now, okay, so marijuana, which is high in THC, which is the it alters your mind, comes from indica, INDICA, and hemp comes from sativa. So you're saying they're different cannabis plants.
Right. They're different cannabis plants.
Okay.
And I mean, not to make it can be very confusing, not to make it very confusing, but you can, we have some really advanced farmers that can breed plants so that one strain has higher THC or another strain has a higher CBD.
Okay.
But for the purposes, so THC and CBD are both constituents. Two of maybe 85 to 100 known compounds in the cannabis plant.
Okay.
Known, so there might even be more. These are just two of them. And THC, like I said, can make you high, and CBD will not make you high.
Okay. So what you just said is, so that's why it's called cannabis, and people freak out because we don't call it cannabis sativa. We should be calling it hemp. Really, instead of
and for the purposes of the show, it might be just very simple to just call it a hemp extract. CBD is a hemp extract.
Okay, and that's probably where the controversy comes from. That calling. All right, so I don't know, Chad. I don't know if you know this, but he's deceased now. But I had an uncle who was a judge. He was a judge in the state of Florida, and he like in. They would always call it cannabis, the perpetrator had cannabis. So again, that's where people are so used to hearing cannabis. So that's where the controversy comes from. Essentially, that's in a nutshell where the controversy comes from. Misunderstanding. Would that be accurate?
If you want to even go into the history of it, in 1970, Richard Nixon, the president at the time, put a ban on, they started the drug, the drug ban. And hemp, which is from the cannabis plant, got included into this bill. Right?
Why?
Probably there was just a misconception that it's cannabis, so it must be a drug. Hemp is from the cannabis family, and we're talking about cannabis, and people use cannabis loosely as in reference a term, like your uncle did, as a term for, like the perpetrator had,
cannabis on
possession or whatever, right? So hemp, since it's from that same family, just got sort of rolled into this law. And then they had the DEA, the Drug Enforcement Agency, went around to enforce that these drugs on this list in this bill were kept discouraged from being produced.
Or grown.
But in fact, hemp was used in World War II, and there's even a government-made movie called Victory for Hemp.
Mm-hmm.
That was put out during World War II, encouraging the American industries to grow hemp because it was really important for the war. It was important for cordage, important for things like, what are those things called? Jumping out of the not helicopters, parachutes.
Okay.
Right? It was important for nets, cordage, parachutes. It also provided jobs for those who stayed at home. It can be, in general, hemp is very, very useful. It's sustainable, meaning like, for example, with paper and trees, you've got to grow a tree for a really long time. You've got to use lots and lots of resources to turn it into paper. Hemp, in 3 months, you could essentially make paper out of it. It doesn't use as many resources, and it grows like a weed, hence the nickname weed has also come from
Okay.
it.
So in the 1970s, I don't even remember this. See, this is why I don't even. Okay, this is why. All right, so I was born in '65. This is why
I mean, I was like
kind of
a little
born
kid.
into the. Okay, so basically, in 1970, President Nixon, when he declared the war on drugs,
Right.
all cannabis got lumped in.
Right.
Farmers were discouraged to grow it.
Right. And it was
Were they
enforced.
discouraged, or it was illegal?
It was illegal.
Okay.
And then the DEA would go around and make sure that they were enforcing this war on drugs. So they just told the farmer shut it down, basically.
Okay. So when did things change? Because this is what I don't understand. Like when did everything shift? I don't even. When did things shift?
Around that time.
No, but when did we start growing it again? Like
okay. So basically what's happened over the years is that hemp, because it can be used, like I said, to make paper sustainably, it can be used to make plastics, it can be used in cosmetics, it can be used, it's like, one of those green initiative plant, like, they talk about it for helping to sustain the environment. It's used in food, like, I don't know, in the health food store, you can get, hemp seeds. You can use the hemp seeds as fiber to put on your food. I eat
hemp seeds. Is that what we're talking? Okay.
Exactly. You can use hemp for protein, like there's hemp protein out there.
Yes.
So it just gradually started to come in because it's a really awesome, sustainable resource, right?
And hemp seeds. Chad, have you ever had hemp seeds from the health food store?
I have not, no.
Well,
I'm going to buy you some.
Yeah.
The next time I buy some, Chad, I'm going to buy you a little baggie of them. They're really they're delicious because they're so fatty.
Yep.
And I eat a high fat diet and I love them, but they're these little tiny seeds. They're a little bigger than chia seeds, but you don't have to grind them. Like I grind flax seeds. I don't grind hemp seeds. They're very rich in fat. They're very rich in protein.
They're good in rich in fiber.
Yeah,
so it's a superfood.
Yeah, Chad, I'll buy you some the next time I go. I get them. I get them at whole. I get organic.
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, that started to happen like right around when?
Not that long ago, maybe 10 years ago. I mean, I remember when you could buy hemp seeds. I remember being surprised about it, and they used to not be as. They used to be more fibrous. Now they have all these companies mixing them in with spices. Like you can get hemp seeds mixed in with cinnamon and nutmeg for your yogurt.
Okay.
Mixed in with pepper. So it's really become this industry here in America used for lots of things. And so all of this comes from basically imported hemp. So in the year 2016, the United States imported $600 million worth of hemp from other countries. So I think that, we're starting to really see that if we can grow this easily, I mean, it grows like a weed.
And
like
also it creates jobs,
It creates jobs. It helps our environment. It makes it so that we aren't importing our resources. We can basically grow them ourselves. Why should we spend all this money on shipping, packaging, when we can just grow it here? So I think there's sort of been a shift.
And now the government's on board and farmers aren't discouraged.
Exactly.
Because you did want to also mention, you say it's important to try to get hemp from the United States because farmers have created special drying processes that eliminate post-harvest mold and pathogens. And in Canada, you say it's GMO free as well. We're GMO free in this country.
Well, I can't say 100% if we're GMO.
That's why I buy organic. Yeah.
Right, and even if it's organic, we don't know if it's a GMO.
Oh.
You know what I mean? Like you can have GMO seeds that are organically grown, unfortunately. In October of 2016, the DARK Act was passed, which stands for Denying Americans the Right to Know. So we don't have to label our things GMO free or organic anymore. But fortunately, I mean, I've met tons of organic farmers, and I haven't met one organic farmer I don't love, and they seem to care about organic, like I care about organic, and you care about organic. So I think that there are people that are labeling correctly, but you just don't know 100%. But what you do know when it comes to CBD oil is that there are some sources for sure that we know in the United States where the farmers care and they're growing it organically and they're picking non-GMO seeds. But when you're getting imports,
you don't know what you're getting.
You just don't know what you're getting. And a lot of the stuff that's coming from China and Egypt and Europe, a lot of it is GMO.
Okay, but another reason for us to grow it here.
Right. Then also we have the FDA here, which I mean, the FDA does regulate some supplements. There is a regulation process on food and supplements. And if a manufacturing plant takes the CBD isolate from the farmers or the plant, then they have to put it through a plant. And then there's third parties that come into these FDA approved facilities, these third non-profit agencies, so no one can buy them off, right?
So they're watchdogs.
And they're watchdogs to make sure
Okay.
that, what they say is going into this product is really what's going in, and what's coming out is really what's coming out. So there's like some checks and balances on
Okay.
the raw materials.
So after we get through some of the benefits and such, I want to talk about being careful about where you got it. Because Chad, you said that you saw it at a flea market.
A flea market, yes, outside Fort Myers, Florida.
With no clue from whom it was.
No idea where it was made from. It was just there in those little vials.
Oh, it didn't say anything on the bottle.
It said
didn't,
CBD oil.
but it didn't say made in.
Nope.
Okay.
I mean, to be honest with you, I didn't pick it up.
Yeah. See, that's
It almost
where...
looked like it was being sold like an elixir, like you would see like snake oil, the way the guy was selling it.
Okay,
It was
okay.
just
Well,
this
I mean,
unsavory.
in all fairness, right? Like our grandparents and our great grandparents, that's what they did. They would like make their own medicines from their
Right.
backyard and stuff. But in this day and age, there are a lot of. They're not just our
Right.
lovely grandmothers that are thinking about us. There are
Right.
people, like as Chad said, making snake oil and things. You just want to be careful. I think that there are some really good intentioned people that just want to put, good food and good medicine out, but you just don't really know.
Right.
Just don't really know. Just want
Okay.
to be careful.
Now, okay, and so I want to confirm the source of cannabis oil, which is what we're talking about today, is hemp, which has no THC. THC is the component of marijuana
That makes you high.
that it has psychoactive properties. Okay, so
And just so that we're completely transparent
Mhm.
here, if you're sometimes it's very difficult to completely isolate a plant. So as long as it has less than 0.3% THC in it, then it's legal
okay,
and it's good. 0.3, that's a very, 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 very little. Okay.
okay,
So-
not where you would never have an effect on
You would
a
never
child.
have an effect.
a-
In fact, yeah, it can only, because whole plants come with terpenes and other constituents. The only thing it's really doing is helping your formula.
okay,
It's not making anybody high. It's not doing anything like that.
okay. So there's no controversy here. There's
Right.
no controversy. So why when I go online, like the first thing I Google to prepare for this show is CBD oil controversy. Why? What are we? I don't like. It's legal in all 50 states. Was there a point where it was not? I mean, is that why? Do you?
Well, I don't know if we really knew about. There was much research that was really so a lot of the research, honestly, was done to prove that the cannabis plant was a drug and that it was very detrimental. But the thing
Okay.
is when compiling all this research, what the scientists found instead that it's actually really helpful.
Okay.
So it always takes if you're going to use. So back then, like actually in the 70s with the war on drug, there was a lot of propaganda. There was a lot of alternative. What do you call it? Like other incentives, ulterior motives and
Okay.
things to, like for example, the paper industry. They wanted to make sure that their trees were supplying paper. You know what
Okay.
I mean? And then the paper people who were supplying the papers for the newspapers, they had kind of a synergy
Okay,
going.
so
So the
people with
newspaper
okay.
media would fuel,
Okay.
so it takes a long time to sort of unwind that.
Turn the
Turn
tide.
the
Okay.
tides. And so people, like I'm sure even my mom is probably like, what is my daughter talking about on
Mm.
Facebook Live? Hi, Mom. Like I'm sure that there's people out there that are like really like this is a drug. I don't know.
Well,
They just don't know the information.
There were even films and propaganda films at the time made where you'd see somebody smoke a little dope or whatever
And
they
they'd
called
go
it,
crazy.
and they'd go literally like have manic episodes.
Like
and that would
Reefer
scare-
Madness
Reefer
was
Madness,
one.
that's the name. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay.
And these people would get so paranoid watching these movies. It was horrible.
Right. But
So-
again, this has no THC. Well,
No THC, but
yeah.
it still taints the whole entire concept.
Well, I know when she said cannabis, what happened was the way this happened, Chad, she texted me and she goes, Tara, our next show, let's do it on cannabis oil. I'm really getting into it. And I'm like, Patricia, you're a mother. I mean, like she's a
See,
nice.
even you,
No,
Tammy.
no. I thought Trisha. I said you're a nice. What are you doing? Like you're a nice mother, and you have children. And then when I started looking into it, I thought, oh, okay. So let's go into this. So there is no controversy. There's no. Chad, am I supposed to be looking into the camera?
No,
or-
you do look at each other.
I don't know where I'm. No, but is that where? Okay, I
Yeah,
don't.
that's the camera right there.
We don't rehearse. I've said this before. We're low budget operations, so Chad and I don't even talk before I get here. Except for I email him almost every day. But that's
At 3 a.m.
That's another show.
3 a.m.
That's another show.
3 a.m. Yes,
why
we
I
have to
email
do one
you
on your
every
sleeping
single day.
disorders, yes.
Every single day. Okay. So so when we say CBD oil, we're talking about cannabis oil because Dr. Selassie's going to start probably saying CBD oil, cannabis oil. What is CBD oil? What is it? Really, what is it?
So CBD oil is that constituent CBD cannabidiol that's isolated from a hemp plant. So it's a hemp extract.
Okay.
And it, when they extract it, it comes into a powder, CBD powder, basically. But you can't really, it has to have a medium carried in it. So it's usually put into grapeseed oil or coconut oil.
I get it. So this is what you just said. It's made into a powder, cannabidiol.
It's made isolated.
It's isolated.
It's extracted from the plant.
Okay, so it's extracted from the plant, and then it has to have a medium or a way of being used. You can't just give out, what are you going to do with powder? That's why they put it in oils. Okay, I got it.
And there is such a thing as full spectrum CBD oil.
Okay.
So again, you want to look at what you're buying. Full spectrum means it has the CBD but not isolated. It has the CBD and maybe some of the other constituents in there, like the terpenes and not THC. Remember, it has to have less than 0.3.
Okay, so it just has some of the other things,
Other
flavonoids,
stuff, right.
terpenes. Okay.
So I think of it like, I love turmeric, right?
Yes,
You know turmeric, right?
Yes.
Probably arguably the most anti-inflammatory natural substance out there, except for maybe CBD, right? So turmeric is used, and it's the yellow part of curry.
Curcumin, yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So there's an active constituent in there that's the anti-inflammatory property called curcumin.
Yes.
And only 2 to 3% make up turmeric. Out of turmeric, only 2 to 3% is curcumin.
Got it.
So I can, in my office now, in my kitchen, I'm cooking with turmeric. I'm sticking a scoop of it in my stir fry. I'm mixing it into maybe a pot of rice. I'm buying it in curry. So that's why it's so yellow. I make sure it doesn't stain my clothes. I'm wearing ugly pajamas when I'm cooking, right?
Yeah.
In my office, a lot of times I'll encourage my patient to do that. I want you to cook with turmeric. I want you to eat it.
Right.
I want you to have turmeric tea. I mean, you can go to the health food store and buy turmeric mixed in lemon, and you've seen all these drinks.
Yeah.
But if somebody is dealing with an inflammatory process like severe pain,
I take it in
digestion
capsules.
stuff,
Yeah.
I'll give them a capsule of curcumin, which is like the isolated constituent.
Got it.
So I think of CBD oil that way. It's an isolated constituent of the cannabis plant.
Full spectrum CBD would be like giving someone turmeric. CBD isolate is like giving someone curcumin, which is
Yeah.
Okay.
You could
I
discuss
use
it like that.
You said curcumin or curcumin? Curcumin. I use
There's benefits to both.
Yeah, I take capsules of curcumin, so I get your drift. It's the isolate. Does that make sense, Chad? That makes sense.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, okay.
I'm with you.
So it's isolated from the plant and mixed with like a medium chain triglyceride oil, coconut or grapeseed oil as a medium.
Right.
Okay. So basically, there's been a lot of research on cannabis oil. A lot of research.
A lot.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Because, like I said, scientists were actually researching to make sure that, to prove how detrimental it was, and then they couldn't help themselves, and they found that actually it had lots of benefits.
Okay. And this is research anybody can go up and they can look online and
Yeah, you can look online. I mean, I'm always trying to encourage people to really look at the studies. anybody can write whatever they want on Mr. Google.
I actually posted on my Facebook page, Chad, if you're interested, I posted today on my Facebook page an article by Dr. Josh Axe. I'm sure you've heard of him. Yeah, who he wrote about all the miracles of CBD oils and such. So make sure you're, like Dr. Selassie said, when you're reading a resource, make sure it's a trusted resource. So there's a lot of research. Talk about, okay, so the research then gets into the endocannabinoid system in our human bodies. Talk about what that is, because that's what's going to help people understand why the benefit is. They're going to, because why is it? Because at the top, when I'm reading off all these things that it helps, one would question, it sounds a little too good to be true.
Yeah.
Talk about the endocannabinoid system.
Yeah, so this is the key, and I think that this is what really got me about CBD oil, is that we have in our systems an endocannabinoid system, right? It's a system not unlike brain, like
estrogen receptor,
right?
Other receptors, receptor.
Other receptors, so estrogen. You brought up estrogen.
Okay.
Estrogen is a hormone, and there's estrogen, which is the hormone, which is like the sort of like a substrate, so to say, and then there's the receptor, the estrogen receptor, and they sit in the receptors, and then a chemical reaction happens in the body. So we actually have these endocannabinoid receptors all over our body. In fact, there's two main ones. One is the the first receptor, CB1, I think it's called, and that helps your brain and nervous system, or that those receptors sit in your brain and nervous system. And then there's the second CB receptor, which mostly sits on the immune system.
Okay.
And it helps with the immune reactions, and it also helps with inflammation.
And when you say CB1, that's a ton of receptors. Like, we're talking about a lot of receptors throughout the brain and nervous system.
Right.
CB2 would be a lot of receptors throughout the just
immune
like we have.
system.
Okay.
Just like we have receptors for the thyroid hormone all over our bodies, or receptors for estrogen all over our bodies that do things.
Okay.
And so it's kind of amazing. We have these receptors to basically receive what are called endocannabinoids. So we make things just like we make estrogens. It takes nutrition and a whole lot of amazing. Like, it's basically how God designed us. We make these endocannabinoids that sit in those receptors. Right?
A question. So
endo meaning within.
Endocannabinoids. Okay, so these neurotransmitters that go to the receptors are called endocannabinoids. So first of all, this is interesting because I've interviewed a lot of endocrinologists. I think the endocrine system is fascinating.
Yeah.
How testosterone, estrogens, androgens, cortisol, DHEA. I think it's just fascinating. I've never talked about this before.
Yeah.
Why are doctors that would talk about androgens, estrogens, adrenal hormones, et cetera, not talking about this? Why is this the first time I'm hearing this? And I've heard everything. No, I've heard, Chad, seriously, like, doing this show, I hear a lot of stuff. Why am I just now?
Well, I think that why I was so excited to bring it to you for a show is it's really cutting edge. This is cutting edge research. This is not
we're just finding out that we have these receptors. We're just figuring this out.
Yeah, I know you have Dr. Millie on your show a lot,
yes.
Dr. Millie Lytle.
Yeah.
So she's a master's in public health, and she always says that basically the mainstream medical system, if you look at it as an institution, is always at least 17 years behind the research. So if you think that a lot of this research started maybe in the 80s and the 90s and in the 2000s, it's 2018 now, it's just coming out. Right? It's just coming out, but maybe this is research that they were looking at really 20 years ago.
Okay, so let me just review this.
So it's kind of cutting edge, but it's more just like really coming in now.
We're just finding out that human beings have an endocannabinoid system, meaning all these receptors throughout our body that want endocannabinoids.
Exactly.
We're just figuring this out. And when you think of this, if it's hard to concept it, think of it just like we have estrogen receptors or testosterone receptors, and we have estrogen or testosterone. Then you're saying the human body is supposed to make certain amounts of endocannabinoids. Would you consider them hormones, just like estrogen?
Yeah.
So,
Because a hormone is just basically a chemical messenger. It's an instructor, or it's telling your body to do something.
Okay, I did not even know my body was making those.
Yeah.
All right,
and they're, I don't know the long name, but 2 endocannabinoids are AEA and 2AG. So they're not CBD. CBD is like an exogenous cannabinoid.
Okay.
Right.
So again, let's just make this so everybody can kind of get it. So let's just take women. Women in certain stages of our lives, we make estrogen because that's our thing. Then after menopause, women stop making as much estrogen.
And
so some women
downregulates.
Yeah, the system downregulates. So some women choose to do hormone replacement therapy, either bioidentical hormone replacement therapy or synthetic. That would be exogenous estrogen coming in to then get to those receptors and do the same job. This is what you're talking about. The endocannabinoids, we don't necessarily make enough. So the CBD oil, that's the job. It comes in and it helps supplement what our body is not making. Wow. Did you know any of this, Chad?
No, I just
it's amazing.
No. Yeah,
right?
it's pretty amazing.
I mean, you could be deficient in, dare I say it?
What?
Marijuana. I mean, I don't want to confuse people, but you could be deficient in what this plant here has to offer.
Okay. So, all right. One more question before we talk about how cannabinoids, what they do. So I can go to the endocrinologist and he can do a full blood workup on me and measure my estrogen, my testosterone, my everything. How do you measure endocannabinoids in the system? Like, was it saliva? Is it blood?
I mean, gosh, I honestly, I don't know the answer to that question. I don't even know.
They don't even know yet?
Yeah, I don't even know if we really have a way to do that.
Okay, so as of yet, doctors don't have a way of measuring it like we measure estrogen, testosterone, cortisol, DHEA, etc.
Yeah.
So that'll be the next thing.
I mean, maybe saliva, because even with hormone testing, saliva is always better than blood. I honestly have no idea.
Chad, isn't that interesting? That'll be the next thing.
Yeah.
That'll be the next thing. Because how do you measure it?
You got to test it.
Well, I mean, so there's functional doctors. A lot of them are medical doctors, health coaches, even naturopathic doctors that practice functional medicine.
Okay.
And they rely very heavily on the test. And one of their big things they say is, don't guess, test, right? And I agree with that. And I like functional medicine a lot. And in fact, some of the research that's out there is because of functional medicine, right?
Okay.
However, naturopathic doctors like me, we think of it as a blending of art and medicine is a blending of art and science. So there's the science, the research, the textbook knowledge, the testing, not guessing, but there's also a part that naturopathic doctors like me really like to look at, which is sort of the art. Like what does this person need for healing?
Right.
You know what I mean? Maybe they need a little love. Maybe, you know what I mean? I know that sounds a little woo-woo, but what is their history? What happened to them? Were they traumatized? What kind of illnesses have they gone through? What kind of, how were they fed? What diet are they eating? Are they going through a lot of stress? Were they breastfed? Someone there's lots of things you can learn about to know whether you would be a candidate for this.
Right. Right. So, so I think that's interesting. And I think that's going to be the next big medical thing is how we measure it. I'm sure at some point they couldn't measure cortisol. I mean, I'm just guessing. At some point, this is fascinating. All right.
Yeah.
So, and you say that cannabinoids support homeostasis. Explain for everyone, everyone what.
So homeostasis is just basically ultimate balance, right? So, homeostasis, your body will always try to reach homeostasis, which is a perfect balance. Your blood sugar is balanced. You feel satiated. You're always trying to get to homeostasis. Unfortunately, there's so many things that disrupt homeostasis, like there's poor nutrition, all those things I just mentioned, actually, trauma, emotional trauma, poor nutrition,
Losing
a terrible environment,
not sleeping enough because
not
you have a
sleeping
new
enough.
baby, or
Yeah, exactly right. Alcohol, drugs, over-the-counter medications, all of these make homeostasis, make it so that your new homeostasis might be not the ultimate optimal homeostasis.
Here's the way I look at it. The body always wants, it's kind of like walking on a balance beam, like a gymnast walking on a balance beam. The body always wants to be in balance. Now, when you treat your body poorly, you don't get enough sleep, you hate you hate your spouse, you hate your job, your children are driving you crazy, you're not going to be in what you would call optimal homeostasis, but your body kind of limps along and finds a way to balance itself out, often throwing something else out of whack. So that's basically what we're saying, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
And what the endocannabinoid system does is can restore that limping out of balance new homeostasis that you figured out. It can restore that back to a good homeostasis, I should say.
Question, because the next question I was going to ask is, can someone, Chad, me, and you, have a CBD, an endocannabinoid deficiency? I'm assuming the answer is yeah, because just like you know what I'm almost thinking, we're comparing it to estrogen. It's almost like I want to compare it more to serotonin.
Yeah.
Because serotonin in the brain, like if your serotonin gets out of whack,
the feel good hormone.
If your serotonin's out of whack, your whole life goes out of whack. The chemistry of the body is very reliant on, serotonin and dopamine and GABA and all these things in your brain and such. It's so easy for everything else to become deficient. I would assume, heck yeah, it's quite likely most of us are cannabinoid deficient.
Exactly. And I think that's another reason why it's helping so many people with such a large variety of health challenges, is because we may all be deficient. And, this might sound odd, but if you really think about it, like Tara Marie is such a good eater. I mean, I've had emails asking me how me and you have given up sugar. Right?
Oh, I just don't eat it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a mom of little girls. Sometimes it gets in.
Right.
Right.
I have no children, so I don't have to keep it in the house.
I don't have to keep it in the house.
Yeah.
But it still gets in. Believe me.
But with kids, it's different. Like, yeah.
Right. So, and the thing is Tara's diet is really excellent, right? Like, I know you've all have heard about the way that she eats, right?
Yeah, but again, I don't have kids in the house, so yeah.
Okay. But what I'm saying is, even with a diet as perfect as Tara Marie's, even though she gets non-GMO, and she gets organic, there's a higher nutritional demand on Tara Marie because our environment is dirtier than it's ever been.
Yeah. We live in New York City. I just got blasted by a bus with car exhaust. I inhaled exhaust coming. Yeah. No, but
right. And even our food, even if it's organic, we're not picking it out of our backyard. It's been transported. It's lost some nutrients. Our topsoil is bad. Our environment is bad. In other words, like, we are deficient in nutrients as human beings right now.
But you suspect.
And so because of this, we can be deficient in endocannabinoids, right? Endocannabinoids, because we can be deficient in endocannabinoids because our bodies don't have the material that we need to make good endocannabinoids, like we need good fats and things like that. But we can also be deficient, sort of like you're deficient, like you might not be, even though you might be eating lots of greens and nuts and things that have magnesium and zinc, you, Tara Marie, who eats really well, still might not have enough because the quality of our nuts and our greens are not as
what it was.
Now, hemp used to grow like a weed, and it was and it was always used in the 1940s, 1950s, 1960s as fodder for cattle. and chickens, and they ate this stuff, right? So
Mhm.
some of these constituents would go into the fat of meat, chicken, eggs, and then we would eat that as human beings.
And that's how but not now. It's
but
not
not
in the
now.
feed.
It's not in the feed anymore. And that's why we're all, I mean, counter to that, I mean, there's lots of genetically modified foods, like cows are not eating grass, cows are eating soy, right? And then we're having more and more issues as a nation. We're having more and more health issues. Right?
Do you think
So-
do you think anybody do you think any of us walking around make enough endogenous, meaning within our own bodies, cannabinoids or
I do. I think it's possible. Like, I do think it's possible, but I think that it's like going against the current because we've got a lot of things fighting us. Like, for example, stress. You need,
yeah.
that's going to down regulate the endocannabinoid system, or it's going to have a demand for, maybe that's not the right word, but you'll have a demand for more endocannabinoids to balance you out.
Right,
But yet we're
right,
all
right.
stressed out. Like, stress is the new normal for us. It's not even new. We're all stressed out, right?
Yeah. So basically
we're all not getting as good quality food as we once were. None of us are eating cattle that was fed on hemp. So I think it's hard.
So we can all of us grow, everybody listening to this podcast, seeing it on Facebook Live, we can all go on the assumption that we're likely deficient in cannabinoids for our cannabinoids receptors.
I think it's a good theory. I'm not going to say that's absolutely the truth, but I definitely, that's what I feel from my professional opinion. Yeah, I think so.
Because you also said in the notes you sent me that, even certain drugs can diminish cannabinoid. Now, here's my question. Okay, so forget about illegal for a minute. People take so many over-the-counter, there's so many over-the-counter medications that people get their hands on. My grandmother, God rest her soul, she lived on Tylenol because she was always getting headaches and that kind of thing. So are you saying over-the-counter drugs and things like non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, people are popping ibuprofen, Motrin and such, those kind of things can lower endocannabinoid?
Yeah, I mean, there's it's hard to talk very generally here because, like, for example, acetaminophen. Okay,
Yes.
Acetaminophen, if you're taking it for pain and you take acetaminophen with CBD, you can actually enhance your body's ability for it to work. Right?
Oh, wait. So what you just said is if you're taking right. What I mean is the person who historically has taken a lot of over-the-counter medications and such, does that generally speaking lower the person's endocannabinoid levels?
Well, definitely things like that I have written here, steroids. Definitely
like
lower
prednisone,
exactly, or even
topical
topicals,
steroids,
I would say, right?
Okay.
Alcohol.
Drink. Oh.
Okay, so alcohol. Maybe you'd have to be drinking more than that one red glass of wine a day, but
okay,
alcohol, nicotine will lower.
Smokers. Okay.
Pesticides.
Oh,
also
dear God
lower,
in heaven. Yeah.
Lower it. There's
You also say that there's actually what's called an endocannabinoid deficiency syndrome,
right,
that consists of a triad of migraines, irritable bowel syndrome, and fibromyalgia. You see that?
Right, and I see that a lot. And it's actually, it is an official syndrome. It's called clinical endocannabinoid deficiency syndrome, CEDS. And and that is a triad. So fibromyalgia, in case you don't know, well, IBS is irritable bowel syndrome. Migraines are headaches. And then fibromyalgia is actually this diagnosis of exclusion. Like the doctor can't figure out anything else about you, but you have pain
everywhere.
And there's like actually 17 points, and the doctor just has to touch you there and you're in pain.
Right.
There really hasn't been much that conventional medicine has been able to offer these people.
Well, what's interesting about fibromyalgia, do you know anybody with fibromyalgia, Chad? I think Chad's kind of talking. I don't know anybody personally with fibromyalgia, but I've known of people. what's interesting, they think it's because of overactive nerves in the system. It almost sounds like a starved endocannabinoid system.
That
Whereas if we would just,
homeostasis is
yeah,
out of whack.
that's, and I'm not a doctor. I'm just saying it out of common sense what it sounds like.
Mm-hmm. I do also know that people with that triad, and you probably know this too, IBS, migraines, and fibromyalgia really do well when they cut gluten out of the diet, right? But gluten, which is from wheat, is heavily, heavily sprayed with pesticides, especially a nasty one called glyphosate, which we have evidence of that it downregulates the endocannabinoid system.
And they're spraying it more. Wheat has
More
changed.
heavily,
Wheat
yeah.
has changed in my lifetime. And gluten is in wheat, rye, contaminated oats, and barley. So it's not just the wheat. Just remember
Right,
it's
gluten.
Yeah. So basically, your hunch, you can't tell me which drugs downregulate the endocannabinoid system, but your hunch is that all the over-the-counter stuff that we're taking all the time in a ridiculously high volume is probably part of what the problem is, as it throws off other things in the body.
Well, we do know, I can't tell you if it like decreases endocannabinoids, but it definitely affects that system.
Okay.
You know, like how I said the Tylenol or the acetaminophen, I don't want to use any brand names on your podcast, but acetaminophen will can sometimes be enhanced. That's why earlier in the show you were warning people about interactions.
Don't take it willy-nilly.
Yeah. So there are definitely interactions.
Okay. So CBD cannabinoid oil, because it affects homeostasis in so many systems of the body, what can it really help with? Because I know that the reason you wanted to do this show is because this was back last fall, late in the fall, coming into winter. I think you really started, there was an uptick of use in your practice,
Yeah,
correct?
correct.
Okay.
And my first one is you're hearing all about it, is the opioid epidemic that we have. People are addicted to these drugs. And I had this young man in his 30s got into a car accident. He was given prescriptive medication. It helped with his pain. He felt like, wow, thank God, like I can wake up without like being in searing pain.
I think we've all been given those at post-surgery. I've been given opioids post-surgery.
Yes.
Where I would look at my hand for 4 hours and just, I mean, they do a trip on you.
Yeah. But he was in pain. So this was, like God sent him. But what happened is he actually, it didn't seem to help. He was taking it every day and it seemed like he needed more. And that's just because your receptors, basically, they upregulate. And so he would go to the doctor and the doctor would prescribe him more. And then suddenly, basically, at some point, the doctor was like, you're addicted and I'm not going to help you anymore. And it was devastating for him because the doctor who gave it to him in the first place was like, you're a drug addict. And he was like basically shamed, but he was really desperate and he started to get it on the black market.
Well, and also though, that's how these people, they go to heroin.
Right, because
these
heroin
people,
is
they
cheaper.
go, they're in a car accident, they have a surgery, they're given the opioids. Eventually someone cuts them off. They cut them off. The doctors cut them off. So then they become heroin addicts, and it's not their fault. That wasn't their intention. But he's physically addicted at this time.
He's physically addicted. He went to rehab. He said, they basically lock you up in a facility, and you have to withdraw, and it's terrible.
They don't help them. It wasn't a medical withdrawal?
Yeah, it was. I mean, like, I think they try to help him, but he still tells me about it. Like, I don't really know how these facilities work, so I asked him to tell me more. He said he was basically in a bed sweating. He was cold. He couldn't sleep. He was shaking. He
doesn't sound
horrible.
Yeah, it doesn't. The medical withdrawal, the places that do medical withdrawal, I just saw a whole big show on this. The places,
they try to ease it out
the places that do medical withdrawal, they give a medication, I think intravenously, and it helps because when you're withdrawing from opiates or heroin, you feel like you have got a massive flu. It's just chills, nausea, fever, vomit. Like it's a horrible. I've seen these people talk about it, and what they do is they give them medication to help ease those symptoms while their bodies are are withdrawing.
Yeah.
You've got there has to be a bridge.
I mean,
There
I think, I don't think I think he did have the bridge. I just don't,
Okay.
I still think it was just rough, I think it was still rough for him. In any event, he came out and he was doing really well, but he
Mhm.
slipped up a couple times and, got back on opioids anyway. He is now managing it with CBD oil.
Okay.
He is
So he comes to you. He comes to
well,
you.
he's come to me with other situations.
Okay.
But this, like we're trying to heal his back, for example.
Okay. Okay.
But he has this issue. I mean, he's an addict, you know what I mean? So anyway, he's able to ward off the withdrawal symptoms.
Okay.
I think he's much better since he went through that whole program.
Okay.
But, it's hard for him, So
And so the CBD oil.
And he feels like he needs he's been clean for a amount of time, but he feels he needs it. And
Okay,
he
but
takes
so
it.
what?
Yeah.
Is that a problem?
No,
Yeah,
exactly.
okay,
It's
okay.
not a problem. And he feels it helps with the pain, first of all. And it also helps with any kind of like withdrawal symptoms that he might be
Okay, so
having.
he was still having the back pain from the accident. So
Yeah.
that's part of it. But
Yeah.
also his problem is he had the opioid addiction.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm really interested in this for the opioid addiction just because it's so pervasive and we're losing so many good people
Yeah.
to this.
It can happen to anyone. I mean, I think that what people are thinking is like, oh, that's for like those druggies.
No,
But
it's not.
No, I mean, it's like your mom and your dad and your auntie and your
Or this nice young man who just happened to get in a car accident. Now, when he takes the CBD oil, what does he do you drink it or do you
He just takes it orally. I know that
It's like you just take like a tablespoon?
Yeah,
You
like
actually-
a tablespoon. It's in a dropper bottle.
Okay.
I know that some people they do what's called they vape it, and it's I don't really I don't really suggest that, but it is basically when you vape it, you basically there's some kind of thinning agent put into the oil so that you can inhale it, and so it works a lot faster for pain.
Oh,
so I
it
think
goes
that
right into the-
I
okay.
think that vaping is probably the best for someone who has like pain where they need to bypass digestion. But I don't encourage vaping. It's just
I don't know anything
there's
about it.
yeah, I don't know much about it. It seems a little I think it puts a weird I don't know. I don't want to judge. But anyway, one thing I don't like about vaping is some vape sometimes they have to add this chemical called propylene glycol, which when heated turns into formaldehyde, which is what when I was in medical school, that's what they preserve the dead body, the
Right, and it's in
cadavers
fingernail
with.
polish.
Yeah, and it's a horrible chemical. So I don't know if all CBD oil made for vaporizing has this propylene glycol.
Right, because that's
I just don't know. I
right,
think I'm
so-
being a little judgmental here, but
basi-
I just think that there's no problem with just taking it
Right,
orally.
So you literally like dose it in a spoon and you take
or
it.
there's capsules. You can get capsules.
Okay. and-
Topically seems to work really well. Topically
like
seems to work
yeah, like for
really
instance, like I'm thinking of this guy, like you said, with his back.
Well-
Let's
Well, actually, it's interesting you mentioned topically. On our Facebook Live, we got a question asking that question.
what? Say it.
Yes, Deb Flynn
Okay.
writes us.
Hi, Deb.
Hey, Deb.
Hi, Deb.
She writes, I was told cannabis ointment applied topically with CBD would not affect your mind, but would just alleviate my arthritic pain. Is this not true?
See,
It's
I
absolutely
love that
true,
because
yeah.
so basically she's almost saying, can I use it like como se di- how do you what like
Bengay.
Yeah, yes. I mean that's so basically like what part of her body did she say? Or did she say? Oh, she's saying arthritis.
Yes,
Let's pretend-
arthritis, yes.
Okay, so let's say this woman, what's her name, Chad?
Deb.
Deb.
So let's say let's say she has arthritic hands or something.
Yes.
Okay, so let's say she has arthritic hands. Would it help her to 3 times a day, like
Absolutely.
rub it in and really
and
massage
maybe even
it?
better than orally because our skin it's CBD isolate in fat makes it a really, really good medium to get absorbed through your skin.
Okay.
So absolutely. I
So
think
you
that,
know-
and that, cuts the controversy right out. I
And you know
mean,
what else I'm thinking about? All the people, Chad, do you have back pain? I
Oh my God, the worst. I put one of those foam memory bars under my back all the time to crack it out. Yeah.
Okay, so you like low back.
Lower
yeah?
back.
Okay,
Sure.
so like, can you imagine like rubbing it into your low back because you've got so anywhere. So again, it goes into the fat of under our skin, our subcutaneous fat.
It's absorbed very well.
So like for this woman, Deb, you said she could like rub it into her,
Hands,
if
put
her
it on her
hands
knees,
or wherever.
put it on her hips. I mean,
And she
yeah.
could also take it orally if she wanted. Because you say that, okay, so thank you for that question, Deb. We have a couple other questions I want to get to before we finish. You say that CBD oil affects the homeostasis of so many systems. That's why it can help so many things. You say it's anti-inflammatory. So for things like arthritis, fibromyalgia, migraine, everything,
Irritable bowel syndrome.
any kind of pain
Yeah.
is, any kind of itis is an inflammatory condition. Arthritis, fibromyalgia, migraines, you say that it can even help with little colicky babies.
So there's been a lot of research on CBD in things like breast milk, right?
Are there cannabinoids in breast milk?
Yeah. So when a baby is drinking, they say that it might be responsible for either the baby and the mom to bond. So the baby will drink the breast milk. It will saturate the baby's receptors. The baby will relax. The baby will, feel love. The baby will bond to the mom. And one reason they know this is I actually read this study that they basically put a CBD blocker in rats that were drinking the breast milk. The rats just stopped breastfeeding and then they died.
Oh, so it's like the CBD is like baby crack. It's like no. Do you understand? Like the baby, it makes the babies want it. It makes them want it. It makes them want it.
Yeah,
not just hunger.
Yeah, but it also seems to do other things other than just make them want food. They actually want that feeling and that warmth.
But you also say it helps with colic. A lot of people have colicky babies.
Colicky babies, it might help with them, and that would be an ideal topical, right?
Where would you put it on a colicky baby? On the tummy?
Just put it on those chunky fatty thighs. Probably
you would
on their belly. Yeah.
Also, you know what I've always heard? When you rub an oil into the bottom of your feet.
Yeah.
And then put on little socks, it absorbs into the body very quickly.
Yeah.
I would almost say on a little baby, put it on the bottom of their little feet,
Yeah,
put on
I would
little
agree
socks.
with that. Yeah.
So isn't colic in babies almost like irritable bowel syndrome in grown-ups? Or am I wrong?
Well, I mean, gosh, we don't really know what colic is. Maybe this is the answer. I mean, my second baby had it, and I kid you not, she cried from the day she was born until she was 4 months, like nonstop. And I didn't think I needed CBD. I don't think I could. I think
it took me
like
pot, honey. Yeah.
No, did you hear like a year?
Did you hear her, Chad? Her baby cried. Which baby was this? The last one?
The second one.
Oh, because she has 5 babies.
Yeah,
she's 10 now. So
okay.
Yeah.
Her baby cried from the day it was born until it was 4 months.
Wow.
24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Yeah, only my mother-in-law could quiet her. My mother-in-law was like doing some kind of crazy.
See, if I had a baby that did
awesome
that, I would just smoke weed. I think. I think I would.
For yourself and let the baby.
I
cry.
really think I would.
I'm very grateful to my mother-in-law. I don't know how.
We have another question from one of the guys just out here, and you might have touched it a little bit, but CBD for reflux.
Oh,
Yeah.
CBD for acid reflux disease.
Yeah,
What's the deal?
I think absolutely it would help. I mean, I know that some people have a hard time with digesting fat who have reflux, but I think it could only help because it helps with irritable bowel, and basically reflux is irritable. Your bowel is a tube from your mouth to your butt, right? So if you're having if it helps with irritable bowel disease down lower, I'm sure it helps with the upper.
Well, and we've had on Dr. Jonathan Aviv. Of course, acid reflux disease is when the acid from the stomach comes up through the esophagus.
Because the flaps aren't closing.
Yeah, because the lower. I've read his whole book 17 times. The lower esophageal sphincter doesn't close properly, so the acid from the stomach runs up through the esophagus and burns your throat. It burns your. So there are obviously, Chad, and we know this from doing that show, there are obviously other things you have to do.
Of course.
But for the symptoms and the discomfort.
I don't know. I coconut oil can sometimes relax the esophageal sphincter, so I don't know if you'd want to take it orally, or maybe you could get it in a different. Like maybe grapeseed doesn't relax the lower esophageal sphincter as much as coconut oil, or maybe again a topical. You might want to try the topical. Or maybe this would be an indication that vaping would help it because you're not digesting.
Oh, I get it. It would go
oil.
right in.
Yeah.
So that's
yes, I think it could help with acid reflux,
or at least with the pain of it.
Yeah, and sometimes reflux is definitely associated with things like stress, for example, right? So
I had another Facebook question. A woman named Caridad. Isn't that a pretty name? Caridad.
That is pretty.
Hi, Caridad.
Hola.
Hi, honey. Hola, mommy. She says, and uses against cancer are
Yeah,
what's the
so
deal?
the verdict is still out, but you certainly could Google right now and you'll find lots of anecdotal information on people that have gotten help with this. The research, they've done some research on cervical cancer, seems to help that. They seem to think that it helps by preventing the growth,
The proliferation of the cell.
proliferation. And we do know
Oh.
that the endocannabinoid system is partly in charge of what's called apoptosis or apoptosis. Some say tomato soup,
Which is
some say
cell
tomato,
division.
which is self. It's like
Self-
suicide. It's like self-regulated. You kill, the cell. All of our cells go through apoptosis, which is basically like at a certain point
Death.
when our cell
Cell
is
death.
old enough or too old, it kills itself, right? So with cancer, you lose that apoptosis, and the cell will just keep going and going and going and going. So we know that it might have something to do with killing itself, helping the cancer to kill itself.
Oh, so this is what you just said. So in cancer, the cells don't die. That's the problem. They just keep proliferating. You're saying that there have been certain research studies that have linked CBD oil with encouraging apoptosis, which is apoptosis. It's POP. It has the word P, which is the cell death. So it halts the progression. You know what this is making me think of?
But, we can't make like a claim. Like we have to be
careful. We can't make a claim, and there's so many different kind of cancers. This is interesting, Chad. I didn't tell you this, but this shook me to my core. A friend of mine from the gym, who people know, Sean Perrine, who he was the he was the editor-in-chief of Muscle and Fitness magazine, like big, everybody knew him. He was a very generous, lovely man, kept a very low profile, on December 11th, I found out he died.
Oh.
And what was so weird to me is none of us knew he was sick. He was diagnosed out of the blue in September with stage 4 lung cancer.
Wow.
And you're just making me think about the vaping. I understand stage 4 is quite progressed, but so many people who are non-smokers are getting lung cancer nowadays. Lung cancer is growing rather quickly. That's making me think, I wonder if vaping it, because
as long as it doesn't have that propylene glycol thing in it.
That just made me think of that, because there's just so many cancers these days. And like for cervical cancer, would you drink it? Would you use it vaginally? What would you do?
Oh, so that's another interesting thing. I mean, I do have another patient who she has interstitial cystitis, and she
explain what that is. Chronic.
Okay, so it's like chronic irritable bladder, basically.
Okay.
And so she was also having urinary tract infections constantly, like just, her life was horrible. And she noticed that when she ingested CBD oil, it seemed to help her.
Ingested in her mouth or?
No, ingested in her mouth.
Okay.
But then we found together a suppository.
Okay,
right.
Yeah.
So that's what she does. She's doing really well now.
Okay. Yeah, because
I think that, like I said, that's talking about the topicals are really also very beneficial.
Well, right, because the transdermal, anything you put on your skin goes right into your system.
Yeah. So suppositories both in the vagina and also in the anus, maybe for people with issues, lower bowel disorders. But yeah, I think that that's another way you could take it.
So a Kiki from Facebook. Hi, Kiki.
Hi, Kiki.
Hi, Kiki. She says, what should we look for when buying a CBD oil? There are so many sites selling it these days. How do I find something that's of quality and purity? That kind of goes to what Chad said. He's at he's meandering around a flea market in Fort Myers.
Yeah.
Like how do you know?
I mean, you just have to be an educated consumer. You know what I mean? Like you want to try to
buy
get
United States made in the USA or Canada.
And you definitely also want to see what they say on the website. Like, do they say not only are we domestic, but we really care about, our product.
And pray that they're telling the truth.
Yeah, and you'd want to look just like for any other any supplement. If they're what's called GMP, they follow good manufacturing practices. If they say GMP, or if you can call the company and ask if they're a GMP, it means that they were made in an FDA approved facility, and that that means there's third party quality and verification. Third party quality assurance, and the third party is verifying that what you say is in it is really in it.
That would be GMC. That would be
GMP, good manufacturing practices.
Okay.
I would, or CGMP.
CGMP.
Yeah.
Okay.
You also want to, go through your medical provider, a healthcare provider
Right.
who's doing CBD. I mean, like you mentioned,
Right. I
Josh
wouldn't.
Axe,
Right.
or me.
Right. I wouldn't want someone. I wouldn't want Chad buying it in Fort Myers and self-medicating. So that's a good
Yeah.
idea. When you're buying it, go through your physician. And your physician should know, but definitely I would say either U.S. or Canadian sourced, because
Right.
you say that in Canada it is non-GMO.
Yes.
I don't know what their FDA. I don't know I don't know what that is in Canada.
Or maybe they import the raw material from Canada, but they make it here in the United States.
Okay.
That would probably be good. I mean,
with a GMP label, good manufacturing.
You also want to see, is there like a place is there a phone number? Like, some of these people are just trying to sell it. Is there a phone number that you can ask questions about? Like, is there a HQ? Is there an address? Like, look at websites. Websites should really have a brick and mortar HQ. Like, there should
headquarters.
Yeah, there should be a headquarters, a place that you can call and ask these questions. I mean, there are ways that people are selling CBD. Like, there's network marketing groups that are selling them. So you just, sometimes those are not the corporation. Those are just like somebody who's selling it who really doesn't know.
Right.
And
I would be very careful.
They are, I usually do see lower doses out by those companies, but you just don't really know. And there is a trick too with dosing.
That's what I'm saying. This is the kind of thing I wouldn't even buy it by myself, because I wouldn't take it without guidance. So that. So
sometimes
to answer,
you need high doses, and some people need actually very minimum doses. So
and to answer you, Kiki, just like Doctor said, I would get it through the practitioner with whom I'm working, and I would not use it without a practitioner's advice. Because, again, drug interactions. I take thyroid medication. Like, I don't know. I'm not a doctor, so I wouldn't want to do this willy-nilly. We already talked about can stop cancer growth by the cell death. I want to talk about seizures, anti-seizures, so it can help with epilepsy. This is where I'm really concerned, because I've seen. See, look now. The whole idea of medical marijuana. This is where I'm confused. And Chad, this makes sense. This is why there's a controversy.
Yeah.
All right. So back with the 2016 election, and I think it was like 9 states, or maybe it was more, they had to determine if medical marijuana and maybe even recreational, I don't know, but I know that Florida was one of those states. And one of my aunts, my family lives in Florida. I'm a very big advocate for medical marijuana, because you know what? If you've got cancer and you're in pain and medical marijuana helps you, do it. If you've got a child that is having seizure after seizure after seizure and medical marijuana helps your child, good. Why would I want to stop that? But I have an aunt who voted against it because I think she became confused with the issue of medical marijuana versus recreational marijuana, which leads me to my question. Why do we even need medical marijuana if Cbd oil seems to be doing everything that medical marijuana could do? That's a good question, right, Chad? Because I just heard, I see Montel Williams. I just saw him I DVR'd a program today. I saw him talking about medical marijuana. He's a big advocate for medical marijuana. It helps him with his multiple sclerosis.
Yeah.
So what are we doing? Why can't we just get people what they need?
I mean, I totally agree with you, Tara Marie. I mean, and and there are slight difference. I mean, like CBD, it's tricky. Like we're trying to figure it out
Right now,
We're
okay.
trying to figure it out. Like who would need medical marijuana versus who could just do fine on CBD. You know, medical marijuana seems to really help with things like cachexia, you know, where the cancer starts to starve the person and the person loses lots of weight. And
Okay.
they really need to open up their appetite, and they also need to, you know, sustain their tissues, and also nausea, you know,
Okay.
patients going through chemo. Like medical marijuana can really, I mean, we know that in the research.
But would
can really
cannabinoid
help.
oil do the same?
I mean, yes, maybe it would. I mean,
We don't know enough.
we don't know enough. We don't have enough examples yet of people.
Because
really...
when I saw Montel Williams talking today, again, I DVR a bunch of stuff, so this was probably something that aired a long time ago. It was just on my DVR. I just had watched it today, and I thought, oh, good, I'm glad I watched it today. I wonder if he's ever tried cannabinoid.
Well, I mean, see, that's the thing is so far most people, well, I'm not going to say most people, but a lot of people who know about medical marijuana have tried marijuana to see if it helped them.
Okay.
Right? And then they get now that it's legal, then they can get the
certain
card.
states,
in certain states, then they can get the card saying that they're allowed to have this because of their situation. Right?
Okay.
Their medical concern. And there are certain doctors, like in this state right now, there are
in New York.
In New York, there are medical doctors that have their special certification from New York State, allowing them to basically prescribe this card to these people that they know that need it, right? So, for example, you know, an older man who has been smoking marijuana for 40 years, right? Maybe they grew up in the 60s and like, you know, and he has chronic back pain. You know, I'm just making up an example, and he's using it. Then that might just be, you know, he might seek out
a medical
doctor to see if that he can do it that way. Now, medical marijuana is not anything green. It's not like flowering buds. You actually have to go to a dispensary to get it. You know, a specific.
But what I'm asking is, since medical marijuana is not legal in all of the states,
right,
and medical marijuana is so problematic, and there is so much controversy swirling, I wonder if anybody's ever talked to Montel Williams about. Or, I mean, obviously Montel Williams is here in New York. He's my neighbor. He lives down the street from me. He lives in a building where I had a client. But he lives in New York, so he's cool. But there are plenty of people with children. I've known of people who, I've seen them interviewed. They have a child who is having so many epileptic seizures. It's literally changing the child's life. They're just seizing all the time.
Yeah,
they've moved to a state where they could get medical marijuana. They've had to uproot their whole family and move the child to a state. You're saying it's anti-seizure, so it can help with epilepsy.
Yeah. So
did you have
I have a colleague, another naturopathic doctor in Washington State, and she sees mostly children who have seizures. Her name is Dr. Hatha Badal. Anyway, she had one child who was seizing 100 times a day. And she's on just CBD,
which is about let's say 5 to 10 times an hour throughout the child's waking hour, and it probably disturbs the little girl's sleep
and the parents. I mean, it's devastating, right? Now she's on CBD oil, not medical marijuana, and she's only having a seizure about every hour or two. Every hour,
and you think it's getting better?
Well, this is just what I heard from my colleague.
The reason I ask is because, like I said, I saw this family who uprooted the family and moved, I think it was to Colorado to get it.
Yeah.
But this was years ago too, and back then we didn't know about CBD.
Right, exactly.
Okay, so it's anti-seizure. It can help with epilepsy. You say it's aging brain, diseases like Alzheimer's, dementia, Parkinson's.
Yeah.
You know, my mother died. Have you ever heard of progressive supranuclear palsy?
Yes, I have. I mean, this might, you know, it's the homeostasis being off.
And my mother died in 2006. So this is long ago, before this was even a conversation.
Yeah. So again, it's really just becoming a conversation now, really in the last 2-3 years.
And how does it help with psychosis, schizophrenia, anxiety, depression? Is that because, you know, I know people who have anxiety and depression and they smoke pot.
Yeah.
This would be
But,
better.
know,
This would be better.
Yeah, and sometimes the problem with that too is that THC can cause paranoia,
Right.
right? So these people are smoking marijuana. They're getting, some of them it helps, but other ones it just makes everything worse because now they're an anxious person with paranoia,
Right.
right? So,
But CBD oil does not cause that element because it doesn't have THC.
and it might, and it's activating those same receptors.
Okay. How does it help restore blood sugar balance? Would that be, are you talking about if you're dealing with someone with type 2 diabetes or
Yeah.
someone with hypoglycemia? What are you?
I think probably both. Because remember, it's
Wow.
all about homeostasis, you know?
Wow. Okay. Because I don't have high blood sugar. I sometimes go low.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you said we take it as an oil. We can either take it orally, topically. You can also take it in
Capsules.
capsules, meaning like gel caps.
Yeah.
Yeah. You've seen it used suppositories
Yeah.
for women's issues or
And
even in the rectum.
Yep.
I just don't get what I don't understand is why isn't this all over the place? Why isn't this?
I'm going to say what she's going to say. I'm going to say, if it's so effective and so many people are getting such great results out of this, why isn't everyone using this?
No, it's not just that. Why are we talking about it on Tamari Live? Why don't we talk about it on Dr. Oz? What are we doing
Why
on my
isn't this
show?
bigger? Why isn't this huge?
Why she should be on Dr. Oz? No offense to me.
No, I hear what you're saying.
I mean,
yes.
no offense. I mean, I like my show.
Yes.
But this. Why aren't you on Dr. Oz talking about Chad? One of my greatest concerns.
Right
for this,
in. I'll go on Dr. Oz. I would be honored to go on Dr. Oz.
Because
I that's why I texted you that day because I was like, wow, we have, endocannabinoid deficiencies. Like everyone needs to know. That's why I text you because you have, a really big influence.
I'm mainly my light bulbs are going off for the opioid addiction and the heroin crisis.
Well,
why, I swear to goodness, why don't you, if I were a doctor, which I am not, I talk to a lot of them, so I have a lot of ideas in my head, I would be contacting every single addiction center in this state if I were you. I'd be contacting every single addiction center until I would be relentless about contacting addiction centers. Do you agree with that, Chad?
Yeah.
Well, honestly, that's a great idea.
I would contact addiction centers. Like, what are we doing?
And by the way, fans just want the doctor on Dr. Oz as well.
Huh?
People want your guest on Dr. Oz as well.
They said that
yeah,
now?
people goes, yes, Dr. Oz. Yes.
Oh, that's
feedback.
But they didn't say, why is she on Tamari Live?
Nobody's
Okay, good.
No.
No, but that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking, why are you sitting here with me? Go to Midtown.
Well, I mean, in to your point, I do have, I'm a doctor. I like to have my little private practice. I do have some very close partners of mine that are doing just that.
They're calling every addiction center in the country.
We're setting up to do that. We want to get this out here. That's why I'm on this show.
Okay, because I'm just very upset right now because my biggest you know what else my concern is, and Chad, you'll echo this because you have a teenage boy, 13.
Yes, 13-year-old, my stepson, yes.
Okay, so this is what also, we're having a mental health crisis in this country of young men who go to schools and shoot up all their
Yes.
et cetera, the horrifying school shooting on February 14th in Florida. We're having, something's wrong, okay? Something's really, 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 really wrong with our brains. Something is wrong.
I mean, could it be this endocannabinoid deficiency? Could it be all the pesticides?
You want to know what I think? I
so.
think the convergence of since the 1999 uptick of pesticides in our foods, all of the crap that especially young people are putting in their bodies, all of the vaccinations, the difference between when I was a baby being vaccinated and a baby today is so different. They do more to the, all at once. It's just a different world. It's a totally different world. I think our brains cannot take it. And I think that we're all walking around with a screw loose. We're all imbalanced. And unless you actively are waking up each day trying to regain your balance, I think you're going to be lost. And most people don't know where to start. They don't know where to start. They're eating improperly, not because of their fault, but because this is the food we're giving, we're providing. And then we've got all this insanity. We've got mental health issues. We've got drug problems. This really concerns me.
Yeah.
And the reason it concerns me is because these are the children that when I'm, in the nursing home eating pudding out of a cup, they're going to be running our country.
Chia pudding, I hope.
Yeah.
I hope someone can. No, I know. I mean, I've seen. So I had a patient, right? She had she's bipolar. She had psychotic episodes, which included hypersexuality during her manic phase. So she had bipolar disorder. She was depressed sometimes and manic other times, and she had hypersexuality. Now she, I didn't see her for long, but actually she's one of the people that I heard about CBD oil from.
Mm-hmm.
Then walks in another patient, a little bit older. She had a history of basically going into her manic phase as a teenager and running away and then coming back pregnant. She came back pregnant and, had an abortion, and her parents, they basically had her on lockdown. Now she's like an adult and she takes care of herself. But
CBD oil helped her?
CBD has really helped her. And I learned about it from another woman with mania with hypersexuality. This is an extreme case, but they're showing up more and more and
We've
more.
got to balance out these brains. We've got to balance out something's very, very, very wrong. And Chad, the reason I bring you up is because you have a 13-year-old son.
I think about it. He sounds
like a nice boy now. Let's keep him that. He sounds like a nice kid, a nice young man. All right, so listen. So I want to say, this is not something you don't want to go buy CBD oil like I go buy tea tree oil and put it on my. You don't want to do that. You want to use it with the help of a physician, like Dr. Selassie, who uses this regularly in the medical practice. It has to do with dosing because a very little goes a very long way. There can be certain...
Some people need higher doses.
Right. But there can also be medical interactions, certain prescription drugs that you're already taking, possibly recreational drugs. If you're pregnant, you don't want to use it. There are different strains of cannabis. You want to work with a doctor. So I want to say this, couple things. Dr. Selassie has a couple offers. Chad, you should avail yourself of this.
Yes,
I'm not kidding. Chad gets more out of my show than any other show that comes out of the studio.
Well, you got to realize,
I think that's true.
He always gets a free book. Like when the guests do a book, they bring a book for Chad. I have to beg for a book. They bring a book for Chad.
They bring extras, of course.
Whatever. All right. So this is what Dr. Selassie. Now listen, everybody can avail themselves of these offers. First, I think this is very generous. I would never make this offer, but she's very generous. She's offering a free 15-minute phone consultation to help you determine if cannabis oil may be helpful for you or someone you love, your child, your spouse. This is what you're going to do. Email her at contact@drselassie.com. That's spelled out DoctorSelassie.com. Contact@drselassie.com and tell her that you heard this interview on Tamary Live and that you want to take advantage of the free 15-minute consultation about cannabis oil. She also has, this is cool. I just found this out last fall when you told me. You're so into this because you've seen such amazing things happen with your patients that you are currently in the process of developing your own brand with partners of cannabis oil. You may even go into the gel caps and the suppository. I mean, who knows where it's going to go. And it's going to be coming out in the spring, which is probably soon, I would imagine. And you're offering 10% off the first purchase with a coupon code. I don't have a code for you now because the product doesn't exist yet. They're still in the manufacturing process of it. But again, email her at contact@drselassie.com, DoctorSelassie.com. Say that you saw Tamary Live, you want the coupon code, and when it comes out, she'll get back to you. All right,
absolutely. I'll just be collecting your names, and as soon as we have a code available for you, I'll email it right to you.
So those are two offers, a free 15-minute phone consultation with her to see if this is even something that sounds like it would help you, and then the coupon code for when her product comes available. And I'm sure you're doing it GMO free,
organic, very good quality. They use the proper drying process. Like I
Right.
wouldn't do it any other way.
No. And also the free 15-minute phone consultation. She's really nice. She's so nice. Isn't she nice, Chad? She's very
Yes.
she's very
Well,
soothing.
she feels like she's like what's the word I'm looking for?
Earth doc, like a
Yes.
like an earth
Aw.
doctor, like
Yeah,
a like
grounded.
a yeah, she's grounded.
Yes.
I'm not. No, there's a reason
You're
why.
like-
no,
you're
there's
like
a reason.
dynamite.
I sit on this side. Chad doesn't even. Whatever. I sit on this side of the table, but she's just a good, solid. I've known her, I think since 2008, when I started doing radio with Invite Health. I think I've known her 10 years now.
Wow.
She's a good woman. If you're hearing this episode as a podcast, because some people miss this and they're just hearing it as a podcast, and you want to watch the video, go to youtube.com/Tamari Live. You can look for the video because we're going to post this on my YouTube page. It'll also obviously be on my Facebook page, but it'll be posted on my YouTube page forever. The name of this episode is Cannabis Oil, The Benefits and Controversy with Dr. Patricia P. Selassie. And you can also access my YouTube channel from my website, taramarie.com. I want to thank my wonderful guest, Dr. Patricia P. Selassie. Again, for more information about Dr. Selassie and her work, visit her website. It's drselassie.com, DoctorSelassie.com. Again, think about those two offers that she made. Normally, I do a Tamari's tip. My Tamari's tip is like 2 seconds here. Open up your mind. When she first texted me in November saying that she wanted to do a show about cannabis oil, I thought this woman's gone off the rails. Like this, what has happened? Because she was such a nice lady. And because just open up your mind. Because when I heard cannabis, I flipped out. And I think it's a generational thing. Because I'm 52, I think people are more open-minded now. Open up your mind toward another way of healing, and think about what Dr. Selassie said today on the show. If you have endocannabinoid receptors, obviously the body wants this stuff. I would bet dollar to donuts that most of us are on the low end as far as endogenous endocannabinoids, simply because life has sucked it out of us. That's my hunch. Just like our serotonin can very easily go off, I think that the endocannabinoids can very easily go off, even more easily than estrogen and testosterone and such, just because of stress, because of mental things. I would think it throws off the endocannabinoid system. So my Tamari's tip is open up your mind to the possibilities of your body being ready to heal itself. I think the body is magnificent and it's ready to heal itself if you just give it what it needs to heal. And I think that's where we're missing the mark. We're throwing things at it that aren't really healing it. They're just masking other problems. And then in the meantime, they're creating a host of other problems too. Give your body, your magnificent body, what it needs to heal based on the system that we were given with an endocannabinoid system. And you'll find that your body is really a beautiful, miraculous self-healing machine. That is all for today. Chad, did you enjoy it?
I did. Very informative.
You did? And
Yes.
this was a good season 2 premiere?
We couldn't ask for a better one.
You loved it?
I did,
Okay.
of course.
And I meant to say, I said this, between season 1 and season 2, I got a lot of emails, and people genuinely do want more of you.
All right, well, I'm here for it.
Yeah.
I'm up for it.
And I told you this. I like that they like you. I just want them to like me more.
They do. Trust me,
Right.
they do.
Right.
Tamari, we love you.
Yes, we
but
do.
they love Chad. They
we love
and
Chad,
I have an
too.
idea, Chad.
Yes.
During season 2,
Okay.
would you be possibly willing to disclose your identity in front of the camera?
Possibly. We'll talk about it. Yeah.
Would you maybe do?
I'm out there a lot already, but if you, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because Chad has been like this elusive snuffleupagus, where they know the voice, but nobody
exactly
ever
right.
sees him. Okay, so that is all for today. Thank you for tuning in.
Thank
I hope
you, Tamari, for having me.
Oh, and we're going to get you on Dr. Oz. If you have any comments about the show, I want to hear them. You can post on my Facebook page. It's facebook.com/Tamari Live. Of course, on Twitter, I'm at Tamari_live. You can hashtag it Tamari Live, and I'll be able to pick it up. Please rate and review Tamari Live on iTunes. Just go to iTunes, write a little review, and give me a rating. Go ahead and give me a 5-star rating. That'd be good. Be sure to subscribe to Tamari Live so you never miss an episode. You can actually subscribe using iTunes or your preferred podcast app right on my website, Tamari.com. That's TARAMARIE.com. And on my website, all past episodes are posted there on the All Episodes page. So you can download them all. You can listen to them right from taramarie.com. Also, sign up for my mailing list. When you go to taramarie.com on the homepage, there's a pop-up, sign up for my mailing list. You'll get my newsletters with my Taramarie's tips about nutrition, fitness, motivation, wellness, getting yourself on the path to health. And I also always send out information about the latest episode of my podcast with a direct link. So that's another way to get it. And make better choices today than you did yesterday, and you will always be moving in the right direction. I will see you next time right here on Taramarie Live, coming to you from the Hangar Studios. Bye-bye.